Hello, Virginia fans. Welcome into another edition of the Cavalier Connection podcast. I'm your host tonight, Jay Ballard, joined as always by, uh, well, it looks like I'm all by myself tonight. That's right, folks. Jeff and Jack are on vacation. So tonight you just get me. But we're going to put on we got a good show for you tonight. I think we're going to, some good things happening around the grounds. We're going to talk about upcoming weekend things, games going on, and just some rumblings from the portal, spring football, just a lot going on. So we're going to talk about all of those things. Um, Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, like this video, watch as many of our other videos as you have time to do. Follow us on X at Talk UVA Sports, Instagram, which is new, everyone. So if you haven't followed us there or we haven't found you yet, go find us there at the_Cavalier_connection_. And then Facebook and YouTube, we are the Cavalier Connection. You can find us there. So, like I said, we have a big weekend ahead this weekend for all of our teams. Um, Putting up the schedule there for you now. So we'll start with baseball. Baseball has a huge series this weekend with UNC. Right now, UNC sits atop the division at 10-2 in the conference. I think they're 25-4 overall. We're 23-6, but just 7-5 in the ACC. So it's a big series for us. If we could manage to sweep, we could get into a tie with Carolina. Virginia Tech's also sitting at the top of the division at 10-2, and we'll get to see them later. So we look forward to that opportunity. Baseball had a big win yesterday over Old Dominion, 4-0. There's been a lot of talk about our pitching hasn't been as strong this year, and that's true in some instances. We've had some games, especially on the weekends, where our pitching hasn't been quite as strong. But I'm telling you, the talent is there, and we're getting some guys back healthy, hopefully. And this team is the offense is amazing. As I was watching the game last night, I couldn't believe that ODU was able to hold us down for as long as they did. But that game, UVA pulled out a 4-0 win. Like I said, UNC coming to town this weekend. Softball, I want to touch on them a little bit. They've had a lot of success this year, and they're having the best season that I can remember them having in quite some time. They're 7-5 in the ACC, and they have a big series at Notre Dame this weekend, who's 6-6 in the conference. So big series for them as well. And then the men's lacrosse team will be at home against UNC, and I believe they're commemorating the 1999 men's lacrosse championship team. So there'll probably be some kind of legends returning from that team this weekend. Carolina's 6-4, but they're a dangerous 6-4. They've got some talent, and they're actually undefeated on the road. They're 3-0 away from UNC. So can't look past them. The ACC is extremely difficult when it comes to lacrosse. So what else is happening right now in Virginia sports? So we got spring football going on, and there's a lot of you see a lot of small reports coming out of this player or that player. We'll have a lot of football spring talk coming up soon. The spring game is going to be April 20th, and I know the Cavalier Connection, at least myself, is planning on being there. I don't think Jeff is going to be able to attend, and Jack, I think, is probably out as well. But I should be able to attend that. Looking forward to it. And between now and then, there'll be a lot of football news. I think right now the biggest thing I've seen has been interesting to me is that I didn't expect to see Tony Muskett throwing the football. He had his shoulder basically redone. It was in pretty bad shape. And, while Jackie Franchuli posted a video and showed that Musket was throwing the ball, looked like it had some zip on it. And she said that he, was participating in throwing drills and, obviously not taking any hits or anything yet. But if it is truly a quarterback competition, that's a good sign for him. I had kind of thought, and I think the fan base assumes that Calandria is the starter. And, while I still believe that, and I think it's what's best for the program moving forward, it could actually be a competition. And you have to say, Musket beat out Calandria last year. So who's to say that, he couldn't do it again? But we'll have a lot of football talk coming up. Um, when Jeff and Jack are back, we'll have a lot, and there'll be a lot more news with football coming out with the spring practices, some of those being open to the public or open to reporters, and we'll get some information from those. So everybody's talked about the portal when it goes with football. We had a big recruiting cycle in the portal. We pulled in, like I can't remember the exact number, but around double-digit players, around 9 or 10 players, I think, total. Everybody's waiting for basketball. Basketball season just ended for us with the first round loss to Colorado State. It was kind of an embarrassing loss, let's be honest. We lost by 25. Lots of people thought we shouldn't be in the tournament. And then you look at teams like that we got in over Seton Hall, Indiana State. Those teams are actually playing for the NIT championship. So they've gone and had success off in the NIT. And kind of because we played so poorly, people have assumed that we shouldn't have been in. And it's hard to make an argument that we should at this point, except for the fact that the ACC was so good in the tournament outside of how we performed. I mean, you look at Clemson making it all the way to the Elite Eight, Carolina, Sweet 16 losing to Alabama, who also went on to beat Clemson. But in both of those games, the ACC, UNC was up by 3 with around a minute to go, ended up losing. And then Clemson had a 13-point lead early, and then the game kind of went back and forth a little bit, but Alabama ultimately pulled away in the end. And then you look at Duke, NC State. If you'd asked a Duke fan, if we told you before the year started, all you got to do to make it to the Final Four is beat NC State, I think they would have all signed up for that gladly. But NC State, and the crazy thing, guys, and I know if you're listening to this, you already know this, but just think about this. NC State is still in the running to win a national championship. They are in the Final Four, which is a huge accomplishment, as we know. It's so difficult to make. I mean, you look at it, like Purdue getting there is such a big deal just to get there. And they, are 1 seed, and it's kind of been expected, but they have a history kind of like what we had. They lost as a 1 seed to a 16 last year, so they're trying to follow in our footsteps. But it's so difficult to make it to a Final Four. And it's NC State literally would not have made the tournament if it was not for the miracle win against Virginia in the ACC tournament semis. And then after that, of course, they had to go on and win their next game and beat Carolina for the ACC tournament championship. But think about that. When they fouled Reese, they were down 5. He's going to the line for 2 free throws, and we're getting the ball with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go. Lots of things happen. Even still, you have an 80% shooter with 5 seconds left. Virginia's up 3, and we're at the free throw line for a 1-and-1 with an 80% shooter. On top of that, we have 3 fouls to give. So even if we miss, they shouldn't get a shot off because we're just going to, as soon as they start dribbling up, we'll foul. Maybe they get a half-court heave. And, of course, everybody listening to this is going to know how that ended. They go down a bank and a three-pointer. That, I mean, just crazy. And if they were to hang a banner, and they're all, I'm sure they'll put a Final Four banner up, but if they were to hang a national championship banner, I mean, good gosh. Tony Bennett, huge follower of Christ, believer. Even he would have to be thinking, God, now I understand why I had to do what I did. I understand why I had to not foul. It was a part of a bigger plan because obviously, it was just meant for NC State to get theirs this year if it were to happen. But I'm happy for the Wolfpack. Of course, disappointed to lose to them in the ACC tournament. And I don't pull traditionally for ACC teams, but with the disrespect that has come this year to the ACC, I am so glad that the other team stepped up and played so well, because ultimately it helps us. NC State finished 10th in the ACC, 10th place in the ACC, and they're in the Final Four. Clemson finished 6th place in the ACC, and they make it to the Elite Eight. I just think it tells you, how deep the conference truly is, and we don't get credit for it. But the portal, I think everybody thought we'd have several players in the portal at this point. I saw rumors of Dante Harris, Andrew Rohde, Leon Bond, all potentially entering. And then we got the video from Mr. Cotton at the Good Feet store that Gertrude was coming back. Great news. I think a lot of people were worried about him transferring out. And as it stands, I think the deadline to declare for the draft is April 27th. So Dunn is going to have to make a decision here soon. But if he were to come back, and Rohde comes back, and Bond comes back, and Harris comes back, and you have the incoming freshman, Kofi, and Sharman, I believe is the last name, the sharpshooter that we got coming from Canada. There's not a lot of room for portal players. I think we have one scholarship that we can hand out if everybody returns. And I want you to think about this. And this is would I think be great for our program. And it would just show you how much of a landscape change has occurred. So everybody talks about NIL, and I actually saw on I don't remember whose it was, but it was a listing on X that someone had posted of NIL money, and I don't know how accurate it is, but it had Virginia as having the 14th most amount of NIL money. Now, if that's true, nobody's ever even mentioned the thought of Reese Beekman coming back for a 5th year, a COVID year. It's my understanding that he has that option. Now, I think everyone has assumed he's gone. And let me say, I do believe he is gone. And I just think, though, wouldn't it be interesting if, because most mock drafts have him as a second rounder if he's going to be drafted. If he got a 2-way contract, I think those are in the neighborhood of, a few $100,000 with the developmental league and the NBA and the G League. A straight contract with the G League is far less than that. Suppose NIL came in and said, "Hey, Reese," or Cavs Futures, whoever it may be. I just say NIL because you know what I mean. But suppose they came in and said, "Reese, we'll give you $700,000 to return for this next year." No one would expect that. But it would be interesting. And it will happen eventually. You're going to have guys that can make more money by coming back to college and taking the NIL than if they were like, especially when you look at football, you look at guys that could go undrafted, maybe late round picks. Money's not guaranteed, or you can go back to college, get that guaranteed NIL money, have some more success. The draft will always be there, assuming you don't get injured. It's interesting to think about. It's definitely interesting to think about. So I have no knowledge that that is even on the table. Um, but if I were Tony Bennett and I was in charge, I'm looking at this roster. I see a team that doesn't have a proven point guard, not one. We don't have a post presence. Buchanan's a nice piece, and I think he'll be a good player, but he is not a signature piece on a team that's going to compete in the ACC. There's holes across this roster that if we don't hit the portal and we go into next year with currently what we have and just having to be better, I think we're going to be, I think we're going to probably experience something that we haven't in the Tony Bennett era, which is potentially a losing season. And so hopefully we can get in the portal. There's a lot of guys out there, and we've been tied to a bunch of them. And obviously, I think Coach Bennett knows who's going, who's staying at this point. And I don't think they'd be supposedly offering kids anyway, if there wasn't a scholarship that was going to come available. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. All right, moving on. So we did some Final Four predictions here. Now, if you go back to football season, you'll want to remember a trend that whatever Jack bets, you kind of want to go opposite. I don't have the final numbers from our NFL betting in front of me, but needless to say, Jack was at the bottom. And then Jeff and I were, I think I had Jeff by some games, but yeah, you could have made a lot of money just going against Jack. I mean, so keep that in mind as we talk about these Final Four picks. So the first game of the night, you've got NC State and Purdue, which is a great little big man matchup. You got Burns versus Edey, and that'll be super interesting to watch. I don't like that matchup, so I'm going to run our picks here and put them up for everybody, and then I'll talk about the games a little bit. So yeah, I don't really like the matchup for NC State against Purdue. I think it's their strength is when Burns can just be bigger and play bully ball, and that kind of sets everything up because he's able to dish out of it, get open jump shots, things like that. And Purdue's not going to have to double. They're not going to have to do anything. Edey will play Burns. Edey's bigger. I think this is a bad matchup. Jack has NC State +9. Jeff has NC State +9. And in that game, I am playing the under 145.5 total. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think NC State knows that they're going to need to limit possessions in this one. Purdue doesn't want to play super fast, I don't think, either. And so 145 is a fairly high number. And we've seen NC State struggle on offense. Of course, they've been on a little bit of a roll in the last 3 weeks, but they can get cold. And I do think Purdue wins this game comfortably. I don't know about the 9 because you could get a backdoor cover. It could be 14 with 2 minutes to go, and State bang a couple threes, lose by 8, and cover that 9. So I would personally stay away from that number, but I'll play the under 145.5. In the second game, you'll have Bama and UConn. Interesting that both NC State and UConn's men's and women's team both made the Final Four this year. So congratulations to them and their fan bases. Hopefully, Coach Mox will get our girls our ladies there soon. She's building a great program herself, and obviously we believe that that Coach Bennett can do the same. But UConn is just too good. They're just too good. Um, Jeff and I are going to lay the 11.5, and Jack is going to take Bama plus the 11.5. And again, in this matchup, I just think, Alabama shot the ball extremely well against Clemson, and after they got down double digits, and UConn's going to play better defense, and if Alabama misses threes at a clip where they have a 3-4 minute drought, UConn, you saw what they did with Illinois. I mean, a 30-0 run against what I think almost everyone would agree is a top 10 to 15 program. You just don't see that. I mean, you just don't. They are just so well coached, and defending national champions. And in my bracket, we got the bracket challenge. Hopefully, I think we're down to only 3 people that can win. And Jeff told me who they were, but I don't have that information in front of me. But basically, Bama, UConn, Purdue, we had people with those as their champions. I have Purdue UConn as the championship matchup. So I'm in good shape to get kind of close. I think I can get inside the top 5 if that were to happen and Purdue were to win. But I would not win. So we're going to have somebody that is not a podcast host win the bracket challenge. So we'll be bringing somebody on the pod here soon to talk. And we actually have a T-shirt that we have made, and you can find them. I think we posted links to them in the on X at least. So they're out there if you wanted to get one, but we'll be giving one of those away to the winner. All right, let's see what else we got going on. So today on X, I put a poll up, and we were talking about realignment. I think it's going to happen. I don't think we can get around it. The ACC is unfortunately, I think, going to die a slow and painful death. It could be like the Pac. It may not be slow at all. It could be like the Pac-12, where once these teams, we'll have to see how these lawsuits go that Florida State and Clemson have, because if they aren't able to get out of their media rights, you're going to see, I think, a mass exit, because it's going to be basically, the chairs on the Titanic. You're going to have to make a decision, and you don't want to be caught being loyal to the ACC, and then everybody else is gone, and you're left looking for some dance partners to form some conference that's not going to generate the money, which is ultimately what allows us to compete at such high levels in all sports. So we ran a poll today on X. If you had your choice, your preferred destination for Virginia, where would you want to go? So the results, I think we had a little over 100 votes. So, decent sample size there. And the Big Ten finished with 46%. The SEC was at 34%. The Big 12 was at 7%, and just get the most money was at 13%. So personally, I'm torn between the Big Ten and just grabbing the most money, because let's say the SEC was willing to pay us more, which I don't think, based on the TV deals I've seen, I think the Big Ten has the most money. But I do think Virginia is just a better fit with the Big Ten. If you look at the academics in the Big Ten, you've got some really strong academic schools, and I think that would be a better fit for Virginia. The Big 12 got the least And the Big 12 is not going to be the Big 12 that you know now, because like Texas and Oklahoma, were Big 12. Now they're going to the SEC for next year, and so it makes it really interesting because now the Big 12 is going to have to poach. Well, are they going to poach ACC schools? I've seen rumors of like Virginia Tech to the Big 12. They get left out of the AC or out of the Big 10, out of the SEC. The Big 12 is going to kind of be like the third kind of major conference. The landscape of college athletics, it'll never be the same. And honestly, if I had my choice, I would like an 8-team ACC where you had your Virginia, your Carolina, your Duke, your Wake Forest, your NC State, your Clemson, your Georgia Tech. And I think I'm leaving somebody out, but yeah, I would prefer that, and play everybody twice. In basketball, play the home and home. Every other year you're at every team. You play every team in the conference every year. But we're never going to go back to that. That ship has sailed. So either you embrace it or you get left behind. And Virginia's not going to get left behind. You've got too many smart people running the athletic program, and there's too much at stake. Honestly, I mean, Virginia athletics are outstanding. I mean, we talk about this all the time on the podcast, but it's not just football. It's not just basketball. Every sport is doing fantastic. Football lagging behind a little bit, but I truly believe Tony's going to get that turned around starting this year. I truly believe that. So we'll see. But it was interesting to see. I think the fans, and I'm in agreement with the majority of the fans. I think the Big Ten is the best option. So, all right, folks. Next week, Jeff and Jack should return. I just want to tell you, there's some big things coming for our podcast, and I'm so excited. We're going to get to share some news with you guys. We kind of tease it on Twitter every now and then, but there is a podcast network forming, and it's gonna be huge. And so we're looking forward to being a part of something new and really big. And you're going to see us even more than just on the Cavalier Connection. We'll be on other channels, and you're going to have an opportunity to really engage with other fan bases as well. It's one of the things we're looking forward to. So we're so excited about that. We have a website that's coming. That's another thing we're excited about. I'm not going to drop the domain name just yet, but it is coming, and we're excited about that as well. So big things happening, and we're just excited to continue to share with you guys. So again, if you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, and just join the community of us Virginia fans. And as always, again, you can find us on X at Talk UVA Sports, on Instagram. That's a new one, so I got to remember it. I'm going to show it up here. The _Cavalier _connection _, and then Facebook and YouTube, the Cavalier Connection. So that'll do it for this episode, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, go Hoos.